The knotted shawl scarf is chock full of fashion options. The knot adjusts to create fit, comfort, and style. How you fold it and knot it transforms this simple shape into a go-to accessory. Form soft, relaxed pleats or thick, bunched gathers. Tie to just one opening for a scarf, double knot just for fun, or fold, wrap, and knot to create a cowl. The possibilities are limitless. Plus, the knotted shawl scarf is a machine knitting adventure. Start with an easy closed cast on, transition to a gigantic buttonhole facing with hung hem, add my rolling no-roll edge, and terminate with full fashion decreases at the perfect point. The companion pattern is available by following the link in the description below, and it includes step-by-step instructions which map each technique along the way. To start, bring 78 needles from left 39 to right 39 to work position. Then retract every other needle to non-working position. Set the tension to 9.1 on your brother's bulky or 9 on the LK. This is your main tension. With waste yarn, knit 1 row. Hang the cast-on comb and add a little weight if necessary. Bring the needles that were retracted into work position so you have a total of 78 needles in work. Continue to knit a few rows with waste yarn and end with the carriage on the right. Since this is a closed cast-on, I don't need a lot of rows. 4 should be enough. Cut the waste yarn. My row counter is 0, so now I'm changing to my main yarn, leaving a 12-inch yarn tail, and I'm going to knit 16 rows. There's my 16 rows. Okay, now I'm going to set myself up for my buttonholes. And I'm going to make large buttonholes on this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to leave 3 needles in work position, and then I'm going to bring out 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There they are. Then I'm going to leave 6 in work position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then bring 7 more out. And you're going to do this all the way across the bed. And that should leave us 3 stitches in work position at the left edge too. Each of these sets that are pulled into the hold position are going to represent a buttonhole. Manually knit each one of the buttonholes with a separate piece of contrasting yarn. Here's how. Lay the yarn in, move them back to close the latches, and then just manually knit them off. Now I'm going to do one other thing to safeguard these stitches because I want them to knit off. I'm going to pinch the 2 ends for each buttonhole with a clothespin. Now that I have those, given just a little bit of tension on those extra stitches, now I can proceed. And I'm going to knit 16 rows. I want to make sure these all knit properly, and they did. Perfect. We'll be coming back to them in a little bit. When the row counter is 32, there is a lot to do. First, remove the cast-on comb and go to weights if needed. It will just fall off anyway. Second, we will add 3 edge stitches on the right-hand edge. Leave 2 needles out of work and bring the next 3 needles to work position. With the feeder yarn, E-wrap these 3 needles. Then put a weight on them to make sure they knit off on the next row. When the next row is knit, a longer bar will be created over the 2 needles that are out of work. Third, increase the tension 1 full number. On the brother's bulky, that will be 10 and 1 click. Now knit 1 row. We just created the fold line of the facing. Now, reset the tension back to 9.1 for the rest of the shawl scarf. We will also add the edge stitches to the left side. Leave 2 needles out of work and bring the next 3 needles to work position or hold position. With the feeder yarn, E-wrap these 3 needles. Then put a weight on them to make sure they knit off on the next row. Just like on the right side, as the rows are knit, a long bar of yarn will be created over the 2 needles that are out of work. So now I'm going to knit 15 more rows until the row counter is 48 more rows. And that's row 48. The 3 edge needles on both sides are not counted when we arrange the needles for the buttonholes. Our focus is on the 78 center needles only. Starting on the right, leave the first 3 needles in work position. Then move the next 7 needles out just 1/4 of an inch, just to mark where the buttonholes should be located. Leave 6 in work position, pull the next 7 slightly forward, and so on. The last 3 needles of the center section should remain in work position. Now that the locations of the buttonholes are indicated, we can finish them without a lot of fuss. If you return to the row where we knit the original part of the buttonhole and follow the column of stitches, you will see that the stitches line up with the needles that are pulled slightly forward. These needles hold the corresponding stitches. Here we have our next buttonhole, and I want to show you exactly how to do this up close. So here the pink waste yarn is coming out of this half of this stitch. Then we have a whole stitch, 2 whole stitches, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and here is the last one on this end. So the lower part of the stitch along the upper edge is what we're looking to hang and use right now. Then we'll come back and we will fill in all these stitches. Now here we have whole stitches, and it's the upper loop of the lower edge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They will fill our empty needles. So the first thing we're going to do is go to this stitch right here. Hang it on the first needle that we pulled a little bit forward. Okay, now we're going to advance this so that the stitch that was on the needle goes behind the latch, and we are going to knit it off. Then we're going to transfer it 1 stitch to the left. Because things are going to get crunched up and pulled, I want to make sure I find the lower loop of the next stitch over from where we started and hang that on the next needle to the right. That just helps to secure that end. We have 2 on this needle. Then I'm going to go to the next stitch that is a whole stitch with ravel cord. Put that on the same needle as the other 2 stitches and push this forward to drop both loops behind the latch. And then I'm going to knit this stitch off, and just like I did before, transfer it 1 needle to the left. Then I pick up the next bottom loop of that upper edge and do the same thing. Advance the needle, knit it off. Transfer that stitch 1 stitch to the left. Now we're going to do this until I have used up all my stitches and I have 7 empty needles. It'll happen at the same time. Anyway, transfer the stitch, hang the next stitch, the lower edge of the stitch on the upper edge. It's the lower stitch, the lower loop. And we're going to continue. Knit that one off. Go to the next one. Hang the next loop. Knit it off. Transfer it. Hang the next loop. Knit it off. That should be 6 needles out of work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And here we're going to create the 7th. And on this one we're going to just simply transfer it over. Hang the end stitch on it. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 empty needles. And then we're going to go over one more and hang that one. Now we have 7 empty needles. So we're just going to pick up the upper loop of the bottom edge and hang them on the empty needles. That buttonhole is finished. We can bring all these needles out so nothing falls off. Now that all the buttonholes are completed, add a little more weight and push the needles out to hold in order to help the carriage knit the next row. And that completed our little buttonhole. And now I'm going to knit 15 more rows to row counter 64. Let's just examine our buttonholes for a second. They're all ready to go. So all I have to do is pull out my ravel cord and watch what happens. Look how nice and neat that buttonhole is. So I'm going to take these all out. I could wait and pull them out later, but I just don't want to get the yarn snagged into anything. After I've completed my row 64, I am going to return to my cast on. I'm only hanging the hem on the central stitches of this grouping. I'm going to proceed along and pick up each of the stitches. And I am just going to go all the way across. And I'm going to knit one row. Once I reach row counter 65, I'm going to bring my tension back down to 9.1, which is my main tension. And now I'm going to knit one more row back. And now I'm going to begin shaping. Now I'm working, all my shaping is going to be on the right hand side because the shawl is going to drape off of the left hand shoulder. If you want it to drape off the right hand shoulder, then do all these same decreases on the left hand side. And what I did was I went to my center section and I lifted up my 3 stitches on the edge because I'm doing a full fashion shaping and move them over just 1 stitch. So I just decreased 1 stitch, and so the 3rd needle of the main section has 2 stitches on it. Then I'm going to go over to my edge stitches and transfer 3 in 1 stitch so that I will still have 2 out of work. And these needles need to be made sure they're out of work because I want to keep this bar running up through the remainder of this pattern. So now that I have those shaped, I'm just going to knit 4 rows. This is the easiest way to do the decrease. Take the 3-prong tool, pull it out, bring it back, bring the needles back and push just enough to open all those latches. Then just lift over the 8 pegs and place those on. You can bring them all the way out to hold. Push that one needle back, then take the 3 end needles and edge stitches and transfer them, push it all the way in, and then bring it over one and bring those all the way out. Now, this is back, these are back, and we're set to go with our 4 more rows. And that's it. Just keep going until you have 3 stitches in the center section. Okay, we are down to 3 stitches remaining in the middle. And this is what you have to know to get that perfect point, because these 2 sides, the edge stitches, are going to be consumed into that point. So you have 3 in work, 2 out of work, 3 in work, 2 out of work, and 3 in work. With a 2 eyelet tool, move the 2 rightmost center stitches 1 needle to the left. Okay, so now we have 3 out of work on this edge. Move the left 3 1 needle to the right. Take any empty needles out of work. Now, you have 1 empty needle on this side, and now we're going to go over to here and move these over 1 more needle. And we have 2 empty needles like we have with our normal configuration. Now I'm going to pull all these out, and we're going to knit 4 rows. This is our dominant edge stitch, so we're going to protect these stitches as far as we can go. So now we're going to move these 3 left edge stitches 1 needle to the right. Then we're going to move the 2 center stitches 1 needle to the left. What that does is that 3rd stitch is eating up one of the center stitches this time around. Okay, so we have 4 over here. Now we're going to come back to the right edge, since we're maintaining that as our final couple of stitches, and moving it 1 to the left. So our configuration at this point is 4 in work, 2 out, 3 edge stitches. So we only have 1 center edge stitch left, because the 3 on the edge here are the left edge stitches where that has the decrease on it, and then 1 center stitch is left. Okay, knit 4 rows. Then we're going to take the remaining center stitch and move it to the left. And we're going to take our edge stitches over here and move them 1 stitch to the left. The configuration is 3 edge stitches on the left, 2 out of work, and 3 edge stitches on the right. And we're going to knit 4 rows. So now we're going to consume this edge. So we're going to take the 3rd needle and move it 1 to the left. With our 3-prong, we're going to take the 3 right edge stitches and move it 1 to the left. Now we're only going to knit 2 rows because we're getting toward the point. So now we're going to take this 2nd needle and transfer it 1 needle to the left. So there's 2 stitches on this last needle, but we're going to take both those stitches and transfer them all the way over to right next to the 3 edge stitches, because we don't want any more spaces in here. So our configuration is 1 stitch on the left, and then the no spaces and the 3 edge stitches. Now we're going to knit 2 rows. The final stitch, this one here, gets moved behind the 3 edge stitches, and we knit 2 more rows. At which point we cut our yarn. All we have to do to finish this off is to pull these out to hold, put the stitches behind the latches, and then just pop them off from the bottom. If we take our weights off, you'll see just how nice that edge is. This is what our knotted shawl looks like when it comes off the machine. The first thing you're going to do to finish it is to take out the waste yarn. There we go, all done. This just peels right off. I do inspect it to make sure I didn't miss a stitch, but I had gotten every single stitch and it worked out perfectly. This is where we start finishing the no roll edge. With the wrong side facing me. So the purl side of the garment is facing me for the buttonholes. So I'm going to insert my hook under 2 or 3 of the end stitches and bring it around and twist it just to make a nice tight loop on the end. Then I'm going to go under the next bar of these 2 stitches that were out of work, and I'm going to pull it through. Then I'm going to go under the next bar and then under the next one and pick up only the second one. The other one's going to ride up just like it was a tuck stitch. Then I'm going to go under 1, under 2, and pick up the second one and pull it through. Under 1, under both of them, and I'm going to just go all the way down this side. I'm going to pull that, stretch it out a little bit. Do you see how that rolled edge just folds under just so nicely? We haven't even given it a little blocking or anything yet.
You will repeat the process on the other edge.
Now I've actually latched both my sides down from the very beginning all the way down to here, and I put a clip on it just so that it wouldn't unravel on me.
If I'd been smart, I would have left the yarn tail dangling at this end and used it to tack down the final loops of the latching. But alas, I forgot, and so now I'm just adding a piece of yarn to do the same function.
Now we have one more thing to do. We don't need a big strand of yarn because we did this side already where we tacked down the facing. We're going to do the same thing on this side. All we're doing is tacking it into place. I like to tack it into place because it helps stabilize the buttonhole. And it also gives me an opportunity to neaten the upper edge.
A good steaming will relax the acrylic yarn and make the no-roll edges drape even more. You will soon find that the knotted shawl scarf makes a great gift for all your fashionistas, too. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please take a moment to subscribe and ring the bell to receive notifications of upcoming videos and events. Happy machine knitting!